The rain started before sunset, a slow tapping on the kitchen window while Evelyn stirred the soup. She set the table for 3 out of habit, 3 bowls, 3 spoons, a loaf of bread still warm from the oven. She checked her phone. No message from Daniel. She told herself he was busy at work, that he would smile when he walked in, that he would say, "Mom, I'm sorry I'm late." She rehearsed it in her mind the way people rehearse good news. When the door finally opened, the wind came with it. Daniel stumbled in first, wet hair stuck to his forehead. Melissa followed, heels clicking, lipstick too bright for a rainy night. The smell of alcohol moved ahead of them like a fog. Evelyn tried a smile. "I kept dinner warm." Daniel didn't look at the table. He looked at the walls, the old photos, the clock that used to hang in his father's office. "This place smells old," he said, and laughed in a way that wasn't his laugh. Melissa slipped off her coat and tossed it onto a chair like she owned the room. "We ate already," she said, picking at her nails. "We're celebrating." "Celebrating what?" Evelyn asked. Melissa smiled without joy. "A new beginning." Evelyn turned to Daniel, waiting for him to explain. He wouldn't meet her eyes. He walked around the kitchen like a stranger, opening a cupboard, shutting it, running his hand across the counter she had polished that afternoon. The rain hit harder. Thunder rolled somewhere far off. "Sit," Evelyn said softly. "Please. You should have something warm." "Don't talk to me like I'm a child," Daniel snapped. The words struck harder than the thunder. He had never used that tone with her, not even as a teenager. Evelyn folded her hands to stop them from shaking. "I didn't mean." Melissa cut in. "He means we're done being caretakers. We're not your staff. We have our own life." Evelyn blinked. Caretakers? Daniel, what is she talking about? "This is our home." "Our home," Daniel repeated, his voice rising. "You think everything is yours. My father's house. My time. My money. You're nothing to me. Do you hear me? Nothing." The last word hung in the air like broken glass. The soup simmered, a small, steady sound that made the silence after his shout feel even larger. Evelyn kept her voice calm, because she had learned that calm is how you stand when the ground moves under you. "I raised you here," she said. "Your father and I." "Stop using him," Daniel said. "He's gone. We're here. Me and my wife." He put his arm around Melissa and kissed her temple. It was a show. Melissa looked at Evelyn over his shoulder with satisfied eyes. Evelyn felt something close in her chest, not anger, not even fear, something like winter. She looked down at the soup and understood this moment would become a cold memory. Still, she tried once more. "Daniel, talk to me tomorrow when you've rested. I'll make coffee." "We're done talking," Melissa said. "We're taking the house. You need to leave." Evelyn's breath caught. "Leave? In this rain?" Daniel moved toward her, and for the first time in her life she stepped back from her own son. "Pack a bag," he said. "Or don't. I don't care." The rain beat on the windows like fast footsteps. Evelyn wiped her hands on a towel to feel brave. "I won't fight with you tonight," she whispered. "I'm your mother." "You're a problem," he answered. He took her elbow, not gently. The towel fell. The soup bubbled as if trying to speak for her. Melissa laughed, small and sharp, like she was watching a show she had paid to see. Evelyn didn't cry. She let Daniel pull her through the hall, past the family photographs that Melissa had pushed out of alignment last week. She memorized them quickly. Daniel at 8 in a paper crown. Daniel at 15 with a soccer trophy. Daniel at 21 wearing his father's watch. She thought of the hours she had spent cleaning this hallway, the way she still lifted the rug to dust the wood beneath because her husband had liked it to shine. Strange what the mind saves at the edge of loss. At the front door, wind slapped her face. Rain entered like it had been waiting to be asked in. "It's late," she said. "There's nowhere to go." "Call a friend," Melissa sang from the kitchen. "Oh wait, do you have any?" Daniel pushed the door wide. "Out!" Evelyn stepped onto the porch. The cold rain found her scalp, slid under her collar, soaked her cardigan in seconds. The porch light made a small yellow circle on the wet steps. She turned back, not begging, just hoping for a human face to appear where her son stood. His jaw was tight. He looked like a stranger wearing Daniel's skin. "Please," she said. "I made soup." He shut the door. The lock turned. The sound was a point in time she would remember with painful clarity, the click that separated before from after. Evelyn stood under the old maple tree until the branches began to shake. Water ran down her back. Her shoes filled. Across the street, the neighbor's dog barked once and fell quiet. She could have sat on the porch swing, but she didn't. Sitting felt like giving up. She walked down the front path, the place where Daniel had learned to ride his bike, and out to the sidewalk. The rain softened the edges of the neighborhood. Houses became shapes with warm centers. She passed Mrs. Duarte's house. A baby cried and was comforted. She passed the park where she used to wait with a thermos during Daniel's Saturday practices. She remembered cheering for him, even when his team lost. She remembered the day he scored and ran to the fence and yelled, "Did you see that, Mom?" She had seen everything, always. Her phone trembled in her pocket from the cold. She checked it. One message, an old reminder to refill her prescription. No text from Daniel. She didn't call him. She knew that if she heard his voice now it would break her. At the corner, a car slowed. The window rolled down. Evelyn. It was Nora, the neighbor from 2 houses down, still in her scrubs from the night shift. "What are you doing out here?" Evelyn tried to arrange her face into a normal shape. "I went for a walk." "In a storm?" Nora pulled over. "Get in. You're shaking." Evelyn hesitated, not out of pride, but because getting into the car felt like admitting something about her life that she didn't want to admit. Then lightning cracked across the sky, a white line that tore the clouds open. She got in. Nora turned the heater to high. Did Daniel and Melissa start up again? Evelyn looked out the window where the house lights blurred. "It's fine," she said automatically, because mothers learn to protect their children even when it hurts. She wrapped her hands around the vents and waited for feeling to return. After a minute, her voice came back in a small, honest piece. "He told me I'm nothing." Nora's mouth pressed tight. "You can stay at my place tonight. No arguments." She drove the short distance to her building and hustled Evelyn inside, brought towels, found an old sweatshirt, set a kettle on. The warmth made the heartbreak sharper, the way thaw makes frostbitten skin sting. "Do you want to call him?" Nora asked gently. Evelyn shook her head. "Not tonight." She stared at the steam rising from the kettle. "He used to draw rockets on the walls. He said he would take me to the moon when he grew up." Nora touched her arm. "People lose themselves. It doesn't mean you're lost." Evelyn managed a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. When the tea was ready, she held the mug as if holding a small animal that needed quiet. She listened to the rain on the roof and the faraway sound of a train moving through the city. She let those sounds be stronger than the memory of the door locking. When Nora fell asleep on the couch, Evelyn lay awake in the guest room and looked at the ceiling. She counted her breaths until the panic settled. Somewhere after midnight, she stood and went to the window. The rain had calmed to a silver mist. The street lamps made puddles look like mirrors. She thought of the attic at home, of the things her husband had asked her to keep safe, of the day years ago when she had followed the lawyer's instructions exactly and tucked away papers that might never be needed. She had hoped they would never be needed. She whispered into the quiet room, not a prayer, not a threat, just a promise to herself. "I will not be nothing. I was a mother. I am a woman. I am still here." In the morning she would dry her clothes on a chair, fold the borrowed sweatshirt, thank Nora, and decide what to do next. She would go back once to the house, not to beg, not to fight, but to close a circle only she understood. For now, she lay down and listened to the last drops of rain, each one a tiny knock on the night, a reminder that storms end, and that the house she had built carried more than walls and a roof. It carried truth, and truth waits for the right door to open. The next morning, Evelyn woke to the smell of coffee in Nora's apartment. The borrowed sweatshirt hung loosely on her shoulders, still faintly damp from the storm. She thanked Nora with quiet words, but her mind was elsewhere. Every thought circled back to her house, the place where she had spent decades, now filled with laughter that wasn't hers. "Don't go back there today," Nora advised. "Give it time. Maybe Daniel will cool down." Evelyn nodded, but she knew Daniel wasn't cooling down. She had seen the fire in his eyes, the way Melissa whispered into his ear like poison dripping from a vine. That kind of bitterness didn't vanish overnight. By afternoon, Evelyn slipped out of Nora's apartment with her umbrella. She told herself she was only walking, but her feet knew the way. The neighborhood looked different after the storm, branches scattered, puddles dark as mirrors, the smell of wet earth in the air. When her house came into view, her chest tightened. The curtains were drawn, and music thudded faintly from inside. The front yard, once neatly kept, had beer bottles rolling across the grass. Evelyn gripped the umbrella harder. That house had been her pride, a place of warmth. Now it looked like someone else's. Inside, Daniel and Melissa moved through the rooms freely. With Evelyn gone, the air had changed. No gentle voice reminding them to take off muddy shoes. No quiet hum of a mother keeping things together. They opened drawers, pulled out photo albums, tossed them carelessly onto the floor. Melissa laughed as she flipped through pictures of a younger Evelyn holding baby Daniel. "Look at her face," Melissa scoffed. "She thought she'd own us forever. Not anymore." Daniel didn't laugh. He stood near the mantel, staring at the framed photo of his father. He hesitated, then set it face down. The silence after that gesture felt heavy, even for him. "Come on," Melissa urged. "Let's see what else she's been hiding." They moved upstairs, their footsteps echoing against the old wood. The attic door creaked when Daniel pulled it open. He had avoided that space for years, thinking of it as his mother's territory. But now, with her gone, he felt bold. Melissa handed him a flashlight, excitement glinting in her eyes. "Maybe she hid money up there," Melissa whispered. "Old people always keep things locked away." Dust swirled as Daniel climbed the ladder. The air smelled of mothballs and would long untouched. He swept the beam across boxes labeled in his mother's handwriting. Christmas ornaments, school projects, books. Childhood pieces of him lay stacked neatly, as if Evelyn had been waiting for the day he would appreciate them. But one thing caught his eye, a large metal safe tucked behind insulation boards. Rust lined its corners, but the heavy shape screamed importance. Daniel's pulse quickened. "Melissa," he called. "There's something here." She climbed up, eyes widening at the sight. "A safe? This is it, Daniel. She's been keeping money from us." "Open it." Daniel crouched, brushing off layers of dust. His hands trembled slightly. He had never seen this safe before. His father must have brought it years ago. The thought made his throat dry. "I'll need tools," Daniel muttered. Melissa's impatience boiled over. "Then get them. Do you want her to keep winning, even now?" That night, Daniel returned with a crowbar and hammer. The attic groaned as he forced the safe open, each strike echoing like thunder through the house. Melissa watched eagerly, biting her lip. Finally, the lock gave way with a metallic snap. Both leaned forward. Inside were not stacks of money. Not jewelry. Not gold. Instead, thick folders neatly bound. Sealed envelopes. Old cassette tapes labeled in careful handwriting. Legal documents stamped with signatures. Daniel's brow furrowed. "What is this?" Melissa snatched the top folder and flipped it open. Her smile vanished. The papers detailed ownership of the house. Clear proof that it was in Evelyn's name alone, secured through a trust. Handwritten notes from Evelyn's lawyer explained something chilling. If Evelyn was ever forced out or mistreated by her son, the property and all attached assets would bypass Daniel entirely and be transferred to charity. Melissa's face went pale. This can't be real. Daniel's hands shook as he opened another envelope. Inside was a letter addressed to him, written years earlier. "Daniel, if you are reading this, it means you have broken my trust. I loved you more than anything, but I also learned that love without protection can be destroyed by greed. This house is not yours to take. It will never reward cruelty." The words blurred as Daniel's chest tightened. For the first time, doubt cut through his arrogance. Melissa slammed the folder shut. "She planned this. She wanted to ruin us. Do you understand? If this goes through, we'll have nothing." Daniel didn't answer. His flashlight beam fell on the photo albums scattered in the corner. His drawings, his trophies, his childhood preserved with love. But in his hands, only cold documents remained, telling him he had lost everything. At that exact moment, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, his heart already racing. A new message appeared, simple and sharp. "Did you like what you found in the attic?" Daniel froze. His mouth went dry. His hands felt like stone. Evelyn knew. She knew exactly what he had done. The attic, once just a dusty room, suddenly felt like a trap closing in. Daniel stared at the screen like it might burn him. "Did you like what you found in the attic?" He swallowed hard. Melissa snatched the phone, read the message, and hissed. "She's playing with us. She wants to scare you. Delete it." Daniel didn't move. The attic felt smaller now. The beam of the flashlight shook in his hand. He looked down at the folders again, trust papers, signed letters, stamped pages with dates and witness names. They were real. They were heavy. They were final. "Daniel, listen," Melissa said, forcing calm into her voice. "We can fix this. Maybe the papers don't matter if she signs something new. We'll make her sign. We'll be sweet. We'll cry. If that doesn't work, we pressure her." He looked at her. "Pressure? She's my mother." "She threw you away first," Melissa snapped. Do you want to lose everything because you're soft? He said nothing. The word everything crawled across his mind like a shadow. They carried the folders downstairs, spread them on the dining table, and read in silence. There were letters from a lawyer named Patel. There were notes from years ago, telling Evelyn to keep copies off-site in a bank box. There were photos of the house, the attic, even the safe. Evelyn had prepared for this long before Melissa arrived. Daniel picked up a small sealed envelope with his name. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a simple page in his mother's handwriting. I hope you never open this. If you do, it means I failed to teach you that love is not control. I will always be your mother, but I will never reward cruelty. His eyes stung. He put the note down fast, as if it had teeth. Melissa paced. We need a plan. Call her. Now. Daniel called. Evelyn saw his name on the screen in Nora's kitchen. The kettle clicked. She let it ring out. She wasn't ready to hear his voice. Not until she knew she could stand in it without breaking. The phone buzzed again. A message this time, Mom, let's talk. Please. Evelyn typed slowly, tomorrow. 11 a.m. public place. I will bring Ms. Patel. Back at the house, Melissa read the reply and swore under her breath. A lawyer? She's serious. Daniel rubbed his temples. Maybe we go and say sorry. Say sorry and sign, you mean, Melissa said. Get her to cancel the trust. Daniel didn't answer. He walked to the mantel and turned his father's photo face up again. He stared at the eyes in the picture, the quiet strength, the soft smile. A memory rose up without permission. His father's voice telling him, a home is built on respect. If you break that, the roof falls on you first. He opened one of the dusty cassette cases from the safe and found a note on it. For Daniel, when you are older. He found an old player in a drawer and pressed play. The tape crackled. Then his father's voice filled the room, warm and steady. Son, the voice said, if you hear this, I am not with you anymore. Be good to your mother. If you ever feel angry, remember she carried both of us when I could not. A strong man protects what made him. Daniel stood frozen. The house felt suddenly different, as if it were listening. Melissa snapped the player off. Enough. Don't let dead voices control you. We have to win now. Outside, evening slid in. The rooms looked larger without Evelyn's gentle order. The dishes stayed dirty. A draft came through the hall because the downstairs window never got closed right when Evelyn wasn't there to check it. Small things added up, and the house began to feel like a boat taking on water. At Nora's place, Evelyn sat with Ms. Patel at the small table, a neat folder between them. Ms. Patel listened quietly as Evelyn told her everything. The shouting, the rain, the door, the attic. Nora signed a short statement as a witness. Evelyn passed Ms. Patel the texts. Ms. Patel nodded, efficient and calm. We have options, the lawyer said. The trust is valid. You also own the house in your name. If you wish, we can serve notice tomorrow. Given the circumstances, we can add a formal warning regarding harassment. You don't need to step inside that house unless you want to. Evelyn breathed out. I don't want revenge, she said. I want to protect what is right. Protection is not revenge, Ms. Patel replied. It is respect for your life. Night fell. Back at the house, Melissa's fear turned into anger that ran hot and loud. If she gives this house to some charity, we are finished. Do you get it? Finished. She jabbed a finger at the papers. Burn them. Daniel stared at her. There are copies, he said. It says so right there. Then steal the bank key. Search. Melissa tore through drawers, yanking them out, throwing their contents on the floor, elastic bands, birthday candles, old keys with no labels, a dried lavender sachet Evelyn had made years ago. The house gave up all its small secrets, but not the one Melissa wanted. Daniel sank into a chair and stared at his phone. He typed a message to his mother, I'm sorry. Then deleted it. He typed, I'll fix this. Deleted that too. In the end, he sent nothing. He walked back to the table and forced himself to read the trust papers again. The language was simple and hard as stone. If Evelyn was forced out, the charity clause triggered. There were witnesses. There were dates. There was the lawyer's seal. He had done this to himself. Near midnight, he stepped outside to breathe and felt the night press against his skin. The porch light flickered. In the quiet, he heard the house settling, old wood making old sounds. He remembered a different night years ago when he had a fever and his mother sat next to him humming until dawn. He remembered how safe that felt. He closed his eyes. Something in him cracked, not from anger this time, but from shame. Inside, Melissa scrolled listings on her phone, Other houses, other lives, as if she could run faster than consequences. "Tomorrow, you keep your face straight," she said. "If she brings the lawyer, we bring tears. Make her feel like a monster." Daniel didn't answer. Morning came thin and gray. At 8 a.m., a knock sounded at the door. Not a light knock. Firm, official. Melissa flinched. Daniel opened it. A courier stood there with a clipboard. Delivery for Daniel Harper. Daniel signed. The envelope was heavy. He opened it with numb fingers. Inside was a letter on Ms. Patel's letterhead. A formal notice of immediate trespass, a demand to leave the property within a strict timeline, a warning regarding harassment, and a date for a meeting to discuss transfer of the house according to the trust. At the bottom, a calm line. Do not contact Evelyn directly. All communication goes through counsel. Melissa's face drained of color. She's really doing it. Daniel read the letter twice, then a third time. The words didn't change. He set the paper down slowly, as if it might explode. Another message buzzed his phone. From an unknown number. He opened it. A single photo, the safe already open. Another, the same documents on Ms. Patel's desk. And a short sentence beneath. Truth doesn't burn. Daniel looked up at the ceiling. His throat tightened. He felt very small in his own house. Or rather, his mother's house. At 10:55 a.m., he left for the meeting with Melissa at his side, her nails pressing red half-moons into her palms. The rooms behind them were messy and quiet. The photo of his father on the mantel watched them go. They drove in silence. At a red light, Melissa finally spoke, voice low and hard. "We don't beg. We get what we came for." Daniel stared through the windshield. In the glass, he could see his own reflection, and behind it, he thought he could see another face. The boy who once promised his mother he would take her to the moon. He blinked, and the light changed. He pressed the gas. They turned toward the cafe, where Evelyn waited with her lawyer, and toward whatever would come next. The cafe smelled of fresh bread and roasted coffee. It was bright, with tall windows that let in the pale morning light. Evelyn sat at a corner table with Ms. Patel beside her, a neat folder stacked with papers in front of them. She wore a simple navy coat, her silver hair pinned back, her eyes calm but firm. She had not slept much, yet she looked steadier than she felt. At 11 a.m. sharp, Daniel and Melissa walked in. Melissa's heels clicked across the floor, her chin raised like armor. Daniel followed a step behind, his shoulders tense, his eyes flickering between his mother and the folder on the table. "Sit," Ms. Patel said evenly, gesturing to the chairs across from them. Melissa sat first, crossing her legs with sharp movements. "This is unnecessary," she began. "We're family. We can solve this without all this paperwork." Evelyn's gaze stayed steady. Family does not throw each other into the rain. Daniel's jaw tightened. He tried to smile, but it came out weak. "Mom, listen, Ms. Patel interrupted. "Mr. Harper, the documents you found are valid. The trust protects Mrs. Harper and this property. After reviewing your recent actions, she has decided to activate the clause. The house will be transferred to a charitable foundation within 30 days. You have 7 days to vacate." Melissa's eyes widened. "What? You can't just—" "It's already in motion," Ms. Patel said. "Copies of the trust are filed. The safe only held duplicates. The originals are secured." Melissa slammed her hand on the table, drawing stares from nearby customers. "You're destroying your own son's life. What kind of mother does that?" Evelyn's voice was quiet but firm. "The kind who refuses to be treated as nothing." She turned to Daniel. "You wanted me gone. Now you will have your wish." Daniel's throat worked as if he wanted to speak but couldn't. His fingers twisted together under the table. The memory of the rain, of his mother's face at the door, rose before him. Shame burned hotter than Melissa's anger. Melissa leaned close to him, whispering harshly. "Say something. Don't just sit there." Daniel finally lifted his eyes. They were wet, though he fought to hide it. "Mom, I didn't mean for it to go that far. I was angry." Evelyn cut him off softly. "Words cannot take back what you did. You showed me what I am to you." She pushed the folder toward Ms. Patel. "And now I must show you what you are to me." Melissa shoved back her chair, standing abruptly. "This is ridiculous. You'll regret this, old woman." "Sit down," Ms. Patel said coolly. "Or leave. Either way, this conversation is finished." Melissa stormed toward the door, muttering under her breath. Daniel sat frozen, staring at his mother. For the first time since he was a child, he looked small. "I don't want your money," Evelyn said. I don't want your house, your apologies, or your excuses. What I wanted was respect. What I wanted was my son. That is gone." Her voice trembled slightly, but she did not break. She gathered her things, stood, and turned toward the door. Ms. Patel followed, her heels clicking in calm rhythm. Daniel sat alone at the table, Melissa waiting outside with fury written all over her face. He pressed his palms to his eyes. A lifetime of memories washed over him. The soup simmering on cold nights, the smell of laundry fresh from the line, his mother cheering at soccer games even when he lost. He had traded all of that for Melissa's approval and the illusion of control. And now he had nothing left. Outside, Evelyn walked slowly, her coat buttoned against the wind. Nora had texted earlier, "Come stay as long as you need." Evelyn smiled faintly at the kindness. She felt lighter. The house was gone to her, yes, but so was the weight of fear. She had protected her dignity, her work, and her husband's memory. That evening, Ms. Patel met with her again to finalize the documents. Evelyn signed calmly, watching her pen move across the page like a closing chapter. The foundation representatives would handle the rest. The house that had been her prison of grief and betrayal would now shelter other women in need. Widows, single mothers, those who knew the sting of being left with nothing. A week later, movers came to the house. Melissa screamed at them, but the notice was official. Daniel stood on the porch, silent, watching as the furniture was tagged and listed for donation. His childhood trophies were packed with care. Evelyn had instructed Ms. Patel to make sure they were returned to him. It was the only thing she left him. When the last box was gone, the house stood bare, its echoes sharp. Daniel walked through the empty rooms, touching walls that no longer belonged to him. He reached the attic one last time, opening the hatch. Dust floated in the light. The safe sat empty, a hollow shell. His phone buzzed. A new message. From Evelyn. Just one line. "You said I was nothing. Now you see, I was everything you had." Daniel sank to the floor, his hands over his face. Outside, Melissa shouted at the movers, but her voice sounded far away. The truth was louder. He had lost his mother, his home, and the life he thought was his. Evelyn, meanwhile, stood outside Nora's apartment with a cup of tea in her hands, watching the sun set. The sky turned gold, then pink, then quiet blue. For the first time in a long time, she felt free. She had nothing left to prove. Because sometimes, revenge isn't shouting or fire. Sometimes revenge is silence. And letting someone sit in the emptiness they created for themselves. Evelyn smiled softly, her heart steady. She had been called nothing. Yet in the end, she was the only thing that ever truly mattered.